And here we go.
Cool. How you feeling, man?
Uh, Pretty good, man. Internally, I feel really solid. We had a really good, really productive week this week. Externally, I feel like this week has been wearing on people more than any other week so far.
Why do you think that?
I just a lot of people that seem to be not even struggling yet, but it's just we're at a point now where in a lot of industries you got to work twice as hard to achieve the same result. And I think anytime that you have to do that, especially getting used to it, it's going to be an adjustment. And I just the vibe that I get from people and just certain conversations, it seems like a lot of people kind of hit a wall this week.
Yep.
And just, I mean, in the nature of what we do, people's stresses and concerns become our stresses and concerns. So, but yeah, I mean, all things considered, I think it's good to, just to kind of bring yourself back and, kind of reinstill perspective where like, for as insurmountable as this shit seems to be, like, it's not. So,
Yep.
How's everything with you guys?
It's good. I think we hit a turning point. I think we hit a turning point last weekend. And I think the reason we hit a turning point is, Siobhan kind of drives the attitude here. And I'm not saying that because we don't have our own emotions and feelings. We all do. But as she goes, we go, So, I mean, she's telling me she'll come home at the end of the day, we'll have a glass of wine and I'll say, how's it going? And they literally have, like 35 or 45 patients in the entire hospital. So they actually have a bunch of nurses that are, not busy. So I don't know if you saw the clip that she posted yesterday. She went live yesterday. I'm rubbing off on her, right? She went live yesterday, and of all the upstate nurses going downstate, because that's where obviously everything is. But I think for me, personally, it's been a good week as I look outside and see 4 inches of snow piling up at my house, which is not helping anybody's mood right now. I think for me, what I'm sharing with people is, politics aside, I like to watch Cuomo's press conference. I mean, it's on right now because he's just very factual. He kind of takes the emotion out of it for the first part of his press conferences. And I think for me, what I'm doing with my clients is I'm trying to over communicate. I'm really trying to, one of the things I did this morning was, in order to support my local bottle shop down in the village, I'm going to have her put together care packages for all of my clients and just send them a bottle of wine and simply say, you know what, thank you for sticking with me through this. And I think that's a lot of what's going to come out of this is the humanity out of all this, the empathy out of all this. And I think that's really, really going to be important. It's going to be the people that can stick with that after this is all done. Once the world, opens up, or whatever the term is that we're using, I think it's going to be that empathy and humanity. If you can stick with that, that's where people are going to be successful in business.
I think / hope so, for sure. I think we need a lot more of that. So,
because we're all struggling with it, and this is something that, we're all on the same team, which is a very interesting thing. Like, this isn't red versus blue. This isn't Yankees versus Red Sox. This isn't Duke versus UNC. This is us versus, the invisible enemy. And I think coming out of this, I'm going to appreciate going shopping. I mean, you're going to appreciate the dumbest things when you come out of this, because Siobhan's put me in quarantine here. Like, she just went to Wegmans on Wednesday and bought the entire store. And she's like, you're not going anywhere for 2 weeks. So it's like, I enjoy going to the store to pick up fresh produce to make dinner for that night. Like, that is one of the things I love doing. And I can't do that. Like, the kids are upstairs playing too many video games. The dogs need to be walked. Again, I showed you the dishes last week. There's still dishes in there. It's like, we're just making a mess of this house and we can't go anywhere. And that drives us nuts. But, I'm glad you're able to actually go into the office, though. I would kill to go to an office right now.
I felt that way. What up, Dilsey? I felt that way the first couple of weeks, but now this just feels like my apartment that I'm trapped in. Like I might switch back to my apartment next week. I don't know.
Yep.
It's just, I think it's just one of those things where, yeah, it's going to be such a test mentally.
It is
for so many people.
Yep.
Like I know it's been wearing on me just being here, and like thank God I have the people on the street that are like our good friends that like I still get to see and like talk to from a safe distance.
Yep.
But like if I was like, inside this whole time, dude, I don't even know what I would be doing. Like I would be losing my mind.
Well, and that's why you got to talk, and that's why you got to talk through things. I've talked to my mother, I think for 21 straight days because she's home by herself. And I think that's going to be so important is communication. And again, this is what I was talking to some people about yesterday is just continue to talk, continue to, and posting content as it relates to this show and as it relates to our podcast is, continuing to do that and being human with, I use your term all the time, is showing the behind the scenes stuff. And I think doing this is really the ultimate way to do it is just expressing how you're feeling. Because here's the deal is 18 months from now, somebody's going to latch onto our podcast because we posted a question that was pertinent to them. They're going to go all the way back to the beginning of this podcast.
Yep.
And they're going to be like, holy cow, these guys were broadcasting just before, the world shut down. I wonder how they're handling the world shutdown. And for me, that's what I'm using as my outlet is putting personal things on LinkedIn. I'm sure you saw it, the sign out front that our neighbors did for Siobhan. You reshared it. I appreciate that. I put that on LinkedIn, and to this date, that was my highest profile LinkedIn post of all time. I'm not doing it for the likes. I'm not doing it for the comments. I was doing it because I was showing somebody this is what's happening in my life right now. My wife is on the front lines. She goes to the epicenter in Syracuse every day. And our neighbors took time out of their schedule to go to the hardware store, paint a sign, and it's sitting right out there. It's incredible.
That was badass. That was awesome.
All right, so you have a couple of questions there. I have a couple of questions here as well. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think that we got a lot of questions, and it's crazy. I think I counted probably 14 or 15 people respond to that Instagram story yesterday with questions.
Yep.
All of them fell into 2 or 3 buckets.
Okay. And real quick, before you start with the first one, can you tell people if they've never posted a story question online or they don't know that function of how to interact with a story, can you go over that real quick?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's literally, first and foremost, I think is just the mechanics of it. Like an Instagram story, like I know Dave's watching and we talk about this all the time. You have to tell a story. So like, that's why if anybody saw it, I went through and I kind of explained what we're doing for the show. I explained what we did last week. I explained what we're trying to do this week. And then, so that was probably took up, I think like 3 or 4 segments. And then the fourth one, if you just click the drop down of stickers, they call them on Instagram, there's a million things you could do. Polls, you could do sliding scales, you could do, just flashy GIFs and all that. And like one of them is questions. It's where you could literally create a question box and then people submit questions or answers, in our case, questions. And then it literally goes directly to my DMs. So it's not public. It's all just between me and you. And, sometimes if they're fun, you can kind of answer them still anonymously. People can't see who wrote them. And it's just a cool way to interact, and so it's just one of those things that's one of the beautiful things I think that people are starting to learn, if they are, is that a lot of this stuff is so intuitive and so straightforward that once you like invest 20, 30 minutes in playing with it, it gets super easy, super fast.
Yeah, love it.
But it was crazy. And like when I texted you yesterday and we talked about it, but it was really interesting to see, no matter where people were coming from, what industry they were in, how old they were, everybody's just struggling with the same stuff. And it was, so like, that's where like going through like the questions was cool. Like literally the biggest thing that people were asking was just like, how do you balance this when there's no end in sight? You know, because we had a lot of people, we talk about like, we have it fortunate, you know, for as much as I will bitch and moan about having to be here by myself and not get to be around my friends and high five and hug people. Like, I'm in the top 1% of the top 1% as far as what I have to deal with here. Like, it's nothing. You know, a lot of people, and just something that you could probably speak a lot more to than me, is how do you balance still having a full-time job worth of responsibilities that you're working from home and homeschooling the kids and still taking care of the house and still making dinner and all that kind of stuff. And then it feels like you run this marathon where you can take a day off and then you wake up tomorrow and it's literally just Groundhog Day.
Yep.
And you do over and over and over again. And a couple people mentioned it. It feels like there's no finish line right now.
Yep. I think for me, it does. It weighs on you. I think the number one thing you need to do is acknowledge that this is hard. This is really hard. And you need to verbalize that, because the moment if anybody listening is anything like me, once those things get stuck up here, you know, and they keep rattling around, they will stay there until it comes out of my mouth. Like, this is a question I use with my clients all the time is, what is the biggest issue you're having today? Meaning, when you got up and used the restroom at 3 o'clock this morning, what were you thinking about? What was that one thing that you were dreading when you got up at 6:30 and picked this stupid thing up and checked your mail? What was that one thing that was sticking in there? And for me, it is just getting those things out. And I got a great piece of advice from a friend Tuesday. I was on my walk Tuesday, and I acknowledged to him. I said, Monday night, he's in my gaming clan, my group, my over 40 gaming clan. And I admitted to him, we have a private chat going. I admitted to him, I said, I'm having some trouble. I was really having some trouble sleeping last night. And I've known him for 40 years, literally 40 years, from Skinny Atlas. And he called me. He knew enough. He goes, dude, you got to call me tomorrow. He knew enough to reach out and say, what's really going on? Like, don't BS me. Don't give me the salesmanship line. Don't give me the Ben Riley BS line. He goes, give me the true core of it. And I told him, I said, it's not so much me that I'm having an issue with. I'm worried about my wife on the front lines. I'm worried about my kids falling behind. I'm worried about the dogs. I'm worried about this stupid house being clean. I'm worried about all of this stuff. And we talked for about a half an hour while I was on my walk. And he goes, I felt so much better afterwards. And it wasn't that I needed like medication to sleep or process all of this. It was simply that I needed to get it out. So, you know, when they talk about it online, if you're even thinking about it, you know, look at a mental health professional. That's not a stigma like it used to be 10 years ago. That is a real thing. And I'm proof positive of that, is that if I don't get those words out, if I'm sitting there quiet, Siobhan will walk into a room and be like, what's the matter? And I literally need to verbalize what I am thinking and need to do. So the answer to your question about how we're juggling all of this, it's all about having boundaries for me. It's all about, like, you know, I know my daughter needs help with a science project. I know that right now, I told her, I said, I need to get my work done. I said, we can work on that all weekend long. We can do that. I know that the groceries need to be done. I know that I need to defrost some chicken for dinner tonight. I need to take that out of the freezer. It's all about compartmentalizing and having perspective. What you and I do for a living is not life and death. If you and I got wiped off the face of the earth, it would be a very sad thing, but guess what? People would still figure out how to market themselves. They would, or they would find somebody else. So when you put things in perspective to say, what these kids are going through right now, my kids, this is their 9/11. You got to call a spade a spade. This is their 9/11. They're going to look back on this and wiped out. Remember when 6th grade got wiped out? Like, can you imagine putting yourself in 8th grade and having the entire second half of the year being wiped out? I mean, that is the perspective that you have to bring into this. So how do I juggle it? I'll make this I won't make this short. I'll make this very long. How do I juggle it all? You got to cut yourself some slack that something will not get done at the end of the day. I have a pile of laundry upstairs that needs to be done. It's not going to get done today. And guess what? I don't care. I don't care that it's not going to get done, because that is the last thing on my list today in terms of getting things done. So you got to have perspective. You got to cut yourself some slack, and you got to prioritize. Those are the three things.
I mean, how much, this is one thing I wanted to ask you today, a question that I had, because I think I've struggled with similar stuff. We're like business wise here, like we're fine, you know, bordering on good, but like how much of your clients' stresses, like, are you taking home? Like when you like what sparked that is like when you bring up the, like, when you get up at 2:00 in the morning, what are you thinking of? And like that has been mine for the last 3 weeks. I'm not thinking about anything KBL related. I'm rarely thinking about stuff personal related. I'm thinking about stuff, whether it's clients that are, you know, missing opportunities, whether it's clients that we're doing okay, but we should be doing better. Like,
yep.
That's what's triggering me. Like, that's the shit that I'm thinking
of. I take it very personally. And that's my superpower and my kryptonite at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Is because I make this so personal. You know, I'm sending personalized note with wine to my current clients because they've become friends. You know, it is very. I got a caravan of people going by the house honking at the sign up front. Gazzy, relax.
Awesome.
I think that's what when we talk about storytelling and we talk about pulling the curtain back and we talk about the behind the scenes footage, I think that's why storytelling comes so naturally to you and I, because we make it so personal. And I think ultimately I do take it home with me. I do compartmentalize it. When I shut my laptop or my phone off, it's gone. It's out of my mind. But yeah, at 3:00 in the morning, I got up this morning at 3. I was thinking about a client. And I was thinking about it, not so much about, am I still going to get paid this month? I thought about it when I texted you yesterday. What can I do to alleviate stress for my client? That's when I texted you yesterday with that idea that I had. It had nothing to do with me. I'm going to be fine. And the reason I'm going to be fine is because I created this brand pivot for myself, this career pivot after we sold the business. I created this from nothing. So I know I can create something from nothing. It's like you and I talk about all the time. You and I bet on ourselves every day, all day. That's why we're confident in what we do. But ultimately, yes, I do bring a lot of it. I do think about it, but not in the way that you would think. Not in the way that, oh my gosh, am I going to make mortgage this month? I don't worry about those things because there's enough people in my contacts where I could spin up enough business to get myself through this little short part of it. But yeah, that's definitely. You come in. Want to say hi?
Hi.
What up, dude?
You gonna make lunch?
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, I do, and I think that's a superpower and a really tough thing too.
That's a good point. I'm glad Paige finally got some screen time. Taven's been dominating.
I know. Taven's been bogarting the screen time. You want to show off your slippers? She's got. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it's tough. It is a real balance, and it is very tough to do that.
Oh no, I feel like that's been wearing on me pretty heavy, like the last 3 or 4 days for sure. Just because you want to just shit some people and be like, why are we doing this? But
and that's the other perspective we have to have is, this is what I told a client yesterday. I go, as long as you don't go to 0 during this time, you're going to be okay. Like everybody's just in pure survival mode. Like we're all getting checks from the government next week. Everybody, every single American, use that money the best way you can to survive this. If you're able to pay your bills now and you're getting that money in and you don't have that earmarked towards something else, you know, if you want to learn that skill or take that online course or do whatever it is that you want to do to better yourself, take that money to use it to better yourself. If you want to learn how to do proper Facebook ads or proper Waze ads or proper whatever it is that you want to do to promote your business and market your business, and you don't need that to fold up and put food on the table. Use that to better yourself and better your career. What better time?
No, yeah, that's a great point, dude. Like
I have a very heavy question that was texted to me this morning. Let me go over it real quick.
lay it on me.
It was, let me find it. This is heavy. Things seem so unfair right now, so unevenly and strangely distributed. Totally different times for those with kids and those without. In the city centers versus those in rural areas. Those around the sick and those unaffected. Those with job security and those with none. Some are learning a new skill. There you go. Some are learning a new skill and some are hoping just to cope. Probably 30% of Americans have lost all of their income and health care, while 30% of people have probably never saved so much money up. Strange new divisions that we have in society. What are your thoughts on divisions and are unfolding, and what, if anything, is true?
Woo! Yeah.
Wow.
So I have a somewhat heavy and what will seem a slightly callous response to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the big things that this is going to teach a lot of people is the danger of relying on anyone or anything else to make sure you're okay. I think a lot of the people that are struggling right now are, I got to be careful how I say this.
Yep.
I think that there's a lot of people that have taken, and everybody has taken a lot for granted, obviously, but specifically in the world of your career and your income and your just overall stability and well-being. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that just got royally fucked with this.
Yep.
And it's just, accurate. If Facebook caused the spread of coronavirus instead of us sitting near each other, I'd be in a really bad spot right now, no matter how much I worked or how much I prepared. But, I think a big thing, the people that are losing income, yeah, so is the rest of the world. I think the bigger question is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And I think that's kind of where we're at, where it's been a reminder, I think, to a lot of people of just how sensitive and how easily disruptible everything actually is. So I think just kind of it's going to serve as kind of a sword sharpener for a lot of people.
Yep.
Just to be more prepared coming out the other side of it, because a lot of people that you just see, it's like, well, yeah, like our governor said, hey, you can't go to work. We'll let you know when you can go back. Nobody did anything to spur that or deserve that, but that's reality. So now it's easy to say like, all right, well then you got to fix our shit.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of merit to that, and it's partly just like our like weird wiring. I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What can I control? Like what is in my universe that I can fix that? Yep. Even if I didn't do this in the first place, like we didn't cause coronavirus, we didn't cause government, like we didn't cause any of that.
Yep.
The tough answer is like, so what? We're here anyway.
Yep.
Now what are you going to do? Right. I think for me, that's more the question is like a lot of people got dealt shittier hands. And even if you got dealt a bad one, there's a million people that got it worse than you.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things that it's a perspective thing, I think.
It is. That's exactly what it is. And the three thoughts I'll give on this are, the people that were looking for an excuse to complain and bitch and moan just got the biggest excuse ever. They just got it. But if it wasn't this, it was going to be the next thing that came down the pipeline. My theory on this is, you've heard my thesis is, there are creators. Everybody falls into two camps. You're either a creator or you're a criticizer. Creators create no matter what is happening in the world. But the more you create, the more you open yourself up for criticism. So the bigger your brand gets, the more applications you send out, the more conversations you have, the more people can criticize about you or what your message is. I've heard messages about me. Who does he think he is talking about this stuff? The people that pay me every month to talk about this stuff. They tell me. They tell me. But the story I wanted to tell on this is, I had a buddy of mine. I met him through. I follow a morning show here in Syracuse on K-Rock, and I found him through the chat one day. And he was a really big supporter of Disco Lemonade back in its heyday. And he texted me out of the blue last week. I haven't heard from him in probably 3 or 4 years. And he texted me and he said, "I just lost my job as an engineer." He goes, "I could really use a pick-me-up. Could you spare 20 minutes on a phone call?" I'm like, "Dude, of course." I mean, this is the guy that used to come to the Casanova Farmers Market week after week after week and buy a bottle of vodka and a 4-pack of Disco with his kids in the stroller, and he'd go home and have a great time. I go, "That's the least I can do for you." He goes, "I'm really down in the dumps, dude." I go, "Sure, let's talk about it." So I was walking the dogs. This is probably last Friday. And he goes, "I just lost my job as an engineer after 12 years. Great paying job. Company in Skinny Atlas, downsized, the whole thing." I go, I'm like, "Dude, that really sucks. I'm sorry that happened to you." I go, "So what's next?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm on Job Builder. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all these things. I'm applying for all these jobs and nothing is working." I said, "Okay." I'm like, "Can you pay your bills right now or what's the deal?" He goes, "Yeah, my company gave me 90-day severance and 90-day health care and 90-day this and 90-day that." I go, "Wait, what?" He goes, "My company gave me 90-day severance, full pay, full package, full family health, full everything." I go, "So your company is paying you to find your next job for 90 days. You don't have to worry about your mortgage for 3 months. You don't have to worry about your kids for 3 months. You have 90 days to find your next job." He goes, "Well, when you put it like that," I go, "Here's what we're going to do." I said, instead of applying for the perfect job, I walked him through and put together a personalized, I call it a player card, like a baseball card. We sat there and we did a personalized baseball card together of him with his family, all dressed up in nice clothes at like at a wedding or something, a great photo of them. And I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to list all of the attributes," I'll use his first name, of Mike's attributes of what he is good at. Here's the other thing we're going to do. We're going to get 4 quotes from former bosses or former supervisors. We're going to get 4 quotes of why Mike is so good at what he does. Then what we're going to do, we're going to put pictures on your player card to say, "Here's why Mike is an awesome team player," and put their pictures with their permission on your playing card. Then over the next 90 days, you're gonna email every company you've ever wanted to work for. You're gonna find them on LinkedIn, and you're gonna send out, you have 90 days, you're gonna send out 30 messages, emails, texts, Instagram DMs, LinkedIn messages, excuse me. So over the next 90 days, 90 times 30 is 2,700 messages. Your full-time job is now to find your full-time job. You're going to email every single one of those people your playing card and say, "Here is the problem I will solve if you hire me." You're going to create your own position within that company. You're not going to go look at the company of their profiles. You're not going to go look at what positions they have open. You're going to show it to them, tell them why you should hire them, and you're going to create a position for yourself. I said, "Do you think you can find one person in the next 2,700 messages to hire you?" He goes, "When you put it that way." So to your point, it's all about perspective. It's all about, you just got punched in the gut. We all just got punched in the gut. What are you going to do about it? When everybody's going to LinkedIn, filling out open applications. Everybody, the entire world is filling out applications.
Literally.
When the entire world zigs, why don't you put together a player profile and zag and go that way? Wouldn't it be nice? Because here's the punchline. Here's my last point. If I'm sitting there reviewing, I don't have any papers. If I'm sitting there reviewing 50 applications, 1, 2, 3, and I get to Mike's player profile card, I'm going to stop. I'm going to look at it and go, this guy put some thought into it, and this guy is creative. He's going to have a better shot.
A million. I think that's like the one big takeaway too, to put a cherry on that one, is that especially now, but even just in general, it's never been more beneficial to think outside the box and color outside the lines. Like, I know for a fact when we hire, I will actively put, like, do not send me a cover letter. Do not do these. And if you do, you are automatically out. You know, people that send like a quick 40-second video or something like that, or that if I write, do not show up to your interview in business casual,
yep,
you're out. One of those things where, like, being able to be like, to literally write your own plan. Cause like anybody that's watching this right now that heard that, they're like, fuck, that's a badass idea. But if they didn't hear that, not one of them would have done it because they don't think they're allowed to.
Right.
So that's fucking dope idea. He's gonna get a sick job out of that.
I texted you an idea yesterday. I'm on my walk. I go, here's an opportunity. If you and I are looking for more business or collaborated business, here's an opportunity that I know exists.
Yep.
I know it. And the reason I sent you that number is because I wanted the number to be insurmountable. You've heard me say this a million times. You create so much work for yourself that you have to scale the unscalable. Meaning you have a pile of work that is sitting over here that, you know, if you find 2 minutes throughout the day, the moment you find yourself scrolling, you have 2 minutes. You have 7 minutes. Guess what? You probably have 17 minutes to do this work over here. So if you have 20, and that's why I put that number in his head, 2,700 emails and pieces of content with a well-branded piece, he's going to crush it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm giving myself advice. I need to put together that piece of, I need to put that together and have that at a moment's notice. Here's who I am. Here's what I'm good at. Here are the opportunities I'm looking for, so that at a moment's notice, I can send that out to 2,700 people and create more business for myself if I want it.
Yeah, we should probably just do that, period. That sounds like a good idea.
Maybe that's next week. Next week, there you go. Call us. We like to call each other out on this, right?
I'm in.
By next week, or maybe we'll do it live. Maybe we'll do it live and share the screen and build it live. And show people the tools that we use.
That would be a sick idea.
There you go. And that's the thing, is you can use it for anything. You can use it for selling your services. You can do it for selling your product. I do it with clients all the time that it looks like that. I use Disco Lemonade as kind of the catalyst. I send people my sales deck for Disco from 3 years ago. I could make it look a million times better than what it used to look like. But for when I used to start using it 3 years ago, people open it up, they're like, that's incredible. And it's a couple of icons. I think you've probably seen it. It's a couple of icons. It's pictures of my family. It's like, why is this product good? And that's what people what's the word I'm looking for? What people respect, I think, out of it, is because you're saving people time and you're respecting their time. When Mike puts together his player card in the stack of 50 resumes, they're going to say, here's why I'm good for your business. Here's what I'm good at and why I would fit well. Here's what I've done. Here's blah, 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 blah. You're respecting people's time. So by putting those 4 quotes on his player card, he's saving that HR person, he's saving her time by not having to pick up the phone and call 4 of Adam Sable's references. Hey, is Adam a team player? Cool. All right. Hey, is Adam a team player? Cool. All right. He just saved her 20 minutes just by doing it that way. What do I know? I'm just full of ideas.
Dude, I'm going to do that. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's, you know, because here's the deal. Here's the bottom line for me. The way the world is going to work is going to look very different a year from now than it did in January of 2020. January of 2021, is going to look very different. You're going to be able to go online onto Twitch and watch any of your local artists that you want to watch and stay home and drink 2 glasses of wine and not have to worry about hiring a babysitter and not have to worry about driving to that bar. You're not going to have to worry about that anymore. It's the companies that are going to adapt to it the fastest that are going to survive, number one, and then thrive once they figure it out.
Well, and I think people, like we're seeing right now, just the amount that adding in a work from home element to literally any position can still check the boxes that you need to check. So like, you know, how many people are realizing that they don't need to be sitting in the office for 8 hours a day, or even have their employees sit in the office for 8 hours a day to do, if we're honest, 4.5 hours worth of work
Right.
on a good day, and then, you know, kind of do whatever. So like, that's the one thing like I'm very excited to see. And I think just strictly internally speaking, our clients that are doing that right now, that are realizing we can change how we do X, Y, and Z to fit this, not only is that paying dividends up front right now, where they are thriving in a world where other people are panicked about going out of business tomorrow.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's teaching them we have way more flexibility and way more room to operate than we even thought.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that, like, that's what I'm excited to see. I think everything's going to look different on the other side of this. You know, jobs, full-time positions. I think that, like, in a lot of ways, like, our structure here, everything is based out of, it's all output based. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody's responsible for X number of things and to have this done by this day. If you finish Thursday's work by 2:30 in the afternoon, like, do I care if you're here till 6? Fuck no. You know, so it's just, it's one of those things where, like, and like, that's working now. And I think a lot of other people, they're going to see that that works for them, or some version of it works for them. And then on the other end of it, they're going to be like, why are we making our people come in at 8 in the morning and sitting here until 5 p.m.? You know what I mean? I think it's just one of those things, like, we talk about kind of like that refreshing of life perspective. I think there's going to be a refreshment of business perspective too. Yep. People, like, we have been stuck in 1983 for way too long.
And here's the punchline for that.
I wasn't alive in 1983, but based on what I've heard, that's what.
Oh, age burn, sick age burn, bro. Here's what it is, and this is what I just had this conversation this morning. If you're the CEO or the person that makes decisions about your group, and you're sitting at home and you drive to a business complex, you know, and you have 50 salespeople that drive to that same complex from Casanova and Clay and Liverpool and Rome, and you're sitting down rethinking your entire business right now. You are rethinking everything from the $45,000 a month check that you write for rent down to what cleaning supplies you have and everything in between. And here's where the advantage is of what you and I talk about all the time is, no, Siri, I don't want to know where that business park is. Siri's looking up business parks for me. Thanks, Siri. Because here's where you and I have fun with this is, you are correct. That CEO or that person, what she is thinking about right now is, how can I market my business in this time? But you say it all the time. People are adapting new habits all the time. They're going to take these direct to consumer. If it can't get delivered to my front door, guess what? We're not doing business. If it can't get texted to me, guess what? We're not doing business. So meanwhile, that CEO is trying to figure out, how do I do texting platforms? What is this crazy Facebook marketing stuff? How do I do this? How do I do that? Meanwhile, that same person, guess what she does? She's on Facebook all day, and she just got a text from her drugstore that her prescription's ready. But this stuff's crazy. This stuff is just weird. This stuff's, you know, it's way out there. Meanwhile, she's using it on a daily basis and trying to figure out how to implement it with her business. The ones that are going to go to YouTube and say, how do I put together an SMS platform over these next 3 weeks? She's going to come out looking like a rock star because she just saved her business.
Dude, 1,000%. You know where I can see it the most, and you're going to laugh at me, but it's 100% true as far as when people are starting to try new things right now? TikTok.
I knew it.
How many 40 to 50-year-old people are just getting in TikTok because when you see it, you go to their profile and their first one was made today. Dozens. I'm not exaggerating. Dozens. And like, that's the thing. Right? That's where like I left. Had another conversation yesterday with somebody who I've had at least a half dozen conversations about what we could do for them.
Yep.
And at the end of the call, he's like, yeah, I'm just still not sure if our customers are on Facebook. And I laughed. I literally laughed out loud, not to be an asshole, not to make a point, but it was just my reflex. Because the light bulb went on, I'm like, you're never going to get it, man. Like, not only are they were 10 years ago, because like when they go home, they're no longer the chief technology officer at IBM. They're John, who is married with 3 kids and loves the New York Jets. Like, it's just wild to me. And the people, like, we talk about it all the time, like, the people that buy in are going to crush it. And the people that don't are going to gradually keep sliding down that hill that they have been. And then here we go.
If I were sitting at home and I was a CEO of a business today, I would email my entire sales staff and marketing staff, and I would say, has anybody ever wanted to start a podcast? Has anybody ever wanted to start a Twitch channel? Has anybody ever wanted to do a text by, marketing by text? And you're going to get 3 people that respond. I would buy them the equipment to put together a podcast, and I would hire somebody to launch a podcast. And I'm not talking about the benefits of this router or this switch or this wine or this whiskey or this, smoking accessory device. I would not do any of that. I would say, what do you love to do? I like to garden. I love to have a beautiful garden out front. Okay, well, guess what? I want my salespeople, while they're on the clock, to record and distribute a podcast about gardening. That's what I want them to do. Because you're going to find more people that are like-minded, that love to garden, that happen to buy whiskey, wine, smoking devices, whatever, hand sanitizer. I don't care what you're selling or what you're doing or what you're servicing, because this is why we do this. We're going to find people that find value in what we're saying. Put together, if you're out of work, if you're unemployed, put together a player card and email every single business in the greater Syracuse area, every single one of them. If somebody finds one piece of value in that, and we're in the infancy of distributing this right now, once we get to the point where this thing just becomes a machine, you and I are going to be overrun with opportunities because we're trying to find like-minded people that are trying to advance their business. Go start the Yankee podcast. Go start the scone baking podcast. Go start the cocktail making podcast. Go do those things. That's going to be so much easier to sell than my router has 24 ports and this guy has 12 ports.
Yep.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's just, dude, it's one of those things that, I don't know. It's just, it's weirdly fun in a lot of ways, and I'm just really excited for it. And I'm not excited for some people, but I'm very excited for others. And it's just a very weird time, but like, it's coming whether we like it or not. So like, let's go,
Yep. I think going back to my final point on the whole thing, to put a button on it, is that really, really heavy question. There were, and I don't like using this term, but I will because he used it. There were haves and have-nots before. There were haves and have-nots now. There will always be haves and have-nots after this. I don't like using that term because that doesn't compute with me, because it all comes down to what you want to do, producing value, and figuring out what you are passionate about, and continue to talk about those things. That is it, because you will figure out a way to monetize those things long term. You say it to me all the time because I get jumpy and antsy about this stuff. But when you start to put together a library of content about podcasting about pottery, podcasting about plants, somebody that owns a plant or a soil company will come across your podcast. at one time, and they're going to reach out to you and say, can you mention my company name twice in your podcast? I'll give you $1,000. So with something that you've already been enjoying, I love video games. I play video games all the time. Somebody will come across my video game platform at some point and say, you have 100 guys over 42 that watch your channel. I said, yes. Cool. I own a beverage brand. Can we sponsor you? Yes. Cool. I will give you $1,000 to mention my beverage brand during your gaming session. Cool. It all comes down to perspective. If you're going to sit there and complain about being a has or a has not, you're playing the wrong game.
Yep.
You're playing the wrong game. You're playing what do they have versus what I can contribute. And that's kind of the bottom line for me.
Well, and I think that the important thing, and sometimes I think we get too carried away, and it's important to take a step back from that, where that starting to do it is invariably always step one. But the other thing is how I look at the have and have not conversation. There's two ways you could look at it. You could look at it, people that, it all comes down to dollars, finances for most people, haves and haves not, right? Look at it a different way. I tell you, I always write notes to myself on my wall in the back. And in two things I have, just two words, just effort, attitude. No matter what, two things that you're always in control of all the time. Yep. No matter what. And if for whatever reason, the lack of one of those is a reason that you fail or that you don't do what you think you're capable of, then it's your fault.
Yep.
So that's how I look at it. It's not haves and have-nots in terms of dollars or resources. It's haves and have-nots in terms of a positive effort and a positive attitude. That's how. Whereas if you just start it and you half-ass it, or you don't bring energy, or like the other elephant in the room, you're not good at it, then people aren't just going to call you and offer you $1,000. And that's where that whole effort thing comes in, because there's a good chance that when you start, you're not going to be good. But as long as you maintain positive levels of both of those, you're going to get better every time until you get to a point where you can hit that level. Like, I thought I was going to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers for the first 7.5 years of my life. But guess what? 32 dudes on the entire planet get to be starting quarterbacks. So as far as having actual talent to do that, you really got to hit the fucking lottery.
Yep.
So that's just one of those things where if I wanted to, I could have put every ounce of energy I have into being the starting quarterback, but eventually you hit a point where you're like, ooh, maybe that's not going to happen, So that's just how I look at it. Like, yeah, some people, I have friends that out of college where their starting salary was more than double than what I make right now. And when you start there, you had to draw the line, who's the have, who's the have not. That's not hard to tell.
Right.
But then we're hanging out Sunday nights back when we could be around friends and football was still a thing. And you looked at their face when they were talking about going to work and living life Monday, and you look at mine. Who's the have and who's the have not now?
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that's just going to be a huge part of it too, is that, a lot of people, it's so easy just to blame other people or other shit. And you're so much more in control of what's going to happen than you want to think. Even now, you know what I mean? Like if your place of work got shut down or you got laid off, like that really fucking sucks, man. It really does.
Yep.
Especially if you have a mortgage and a family to take care of. Yeah. But there's literally hundreds of millions of people that are in the same spot.
Exactly right.
What now?
That's it. If you need help, text us, message us. Oh, there he is. Can we show your hair, please?
He heard his sister was getting one up.
You got to see this thing.
It's crazy, I know.
Goodness gracious, dude.
That's the teenager starter pack, by the way. It's the hair coming out of the front of the hoodie and the AirPods.
Go down Beckham life. I respect it.
Hey, man, you do you, right? That's it. I think the last piece of advice is, I keep putting this in my posts, and you know what? It's corny, but it's true. It's, kindness and empathy are going to rule the day. I mean, that's just what they are. And no matter what you're doing, and we all have moments where it's easy. And we all have moments where that's really, really hard. I had a conversation last night with my wife, and she goes, all right, Mr. Empathy, you're not being very empathetic right now. And she was right. She called me right out, and she was right. And it really put me back in place. And I said, you're right. You know what? You're right. And I was talking about something and that was the thing, was I was talking about something that I could control, right? So I could control the situation, and I still wasn't being very empathetic. So I'm putting myself on notice, and just to continue to heed my own words. And I think if you are struggling, there are enough resources there to help out. Like I said, take the government check and invest in yourself if you can. Figure something else out. Do something else. Don't just fill out mindless applications. Don't just scroll. Just figure it out. Close Facebook, open up YouTube, and say, how do I start a gardening podcast? And I know that's easy for me to say now, but the answer will always be the same. 2 years ago, today, 2 years from now. Do something that makes you happy. Figure out if you want to monetize on it and do a side hustle and earn a living doing it. Dial the 50 businesses in your town and say, will you give me $50 to sponsor my podcast? And if you have 20 of them say yes, there's $1,000 for you to talk into a microphone about something you love. What a world we live in, so.
1,000%. I think that's the big takeaway, is that when you look back on all this stuff, if 6 months from now, if it's 8 months, if it's 2 months, who knows? Very few people are going to remember what happened. A lot of people are going to remember how you responded to it. And that's what I keep telling our people, because we have people that are rightfully freaking out because it's scary right now because people don't know. And that lack of knowing is always what freaks people out. And I get it. But I'm like, somebody is going to be the first person to come out of this and be proactive and take the ball and run with it. And if we can find a way to have it be us, that's going to be really great for us on a lot of levels. So that's our shot, man.
I love it. Let's end it there, man. Well done. Well done. That's fun. I'm glad we're documenting this time, because we're going to be able to go back on this in 2 years where things are back and hopefully better than ever than they were even before this. We're going to be able to go back and draw upon this and be like, man, guess what? We were struggling like everybody else. We were having bad days like everybody else. We were, snapping at our family because we couldn't go anywhere. We were snapping at, our friends because they had different political views, or we were snapping at this person. It's like, we're going to be able to go back at this. It's like, I found myself, like, we like to put together videos, like music videos or slideshows for the kids. Like, that's kind of like one of the things we've become known for, is kind of the slideshow family. Like, we got to do the 4th grade moving up ceremony and the football video. And I was having a down day yesterday, and when I was on my walk, I just pulled up one of the videos. I wasn't even watching it. I was just listening to it, and just hearing that music and hearing that time and hearing the kids' voices brought me back to a place where I could remember sitting down at 12:30 in the morning, the day of the slideshow trying to be done. Yep. And I remember parents still emailing me pictures at 12 hours before. And you've put together, you know how hard this stuff is. It was a 15-minute video. This thing took me 3 weeks to put together. And I remember sitting there going, remember when parents weren't emailing you the pictures until 12 hours before the show, and that was your biggest problem in the world? Mm-hmm. I just, documenting not only does great things for you today, but it builds this library of emotion that you can draw upon. And if we're lucky enough to have people listen and watch, which we do, which I'm eternally grateful for, aren't we lucky that we get to be able to go back and watch this stuff? So I'm going to use these videos at some point to really draw, to improve my mood and think about what we were going through in this time, because it's going to be fascinating to go back and watch.
Well, I think that we're in a spot right now where I don't know if anybody like fully understands what we're going through, just because there's so much and we're going so fast, that I do think, even like in the other direction too, 6, 7, 8 months from now, looking back at how you handled this and how you came through it, or like, man, I'm really fucking glad we did that, like, because like that's the other thing, like especially for us, like I think I've talked more about my feelings in the last 2 months than I have like the first 31 years of my life. But like that's like then the big thing for me, like, especially like all of just the family and personal stuff that we got going on. It's just been like, it's almost like every 2 hours, like I got to stop and just exhale and be like, okay, make a list of things I have to check on. Like, okay, go back to work. And you just get in that cycle over and over and over again that you're literally living life 2 hours at a time. And then when you're doing that, you don't realize, like, I don't even know like what day we're on now. You could tell me it was day 14 or day 44, and I'd believe you either way. So it's going to be really cool to look back on these. I'm so glad we're doing this. It's crazy.
Good. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate people that watch either now or 2 years from now or 10 years from now. It's just it's incredible. I love looking. I'm really looking forward to going back on this stuff. Now I have to figure out how to end my Facebook Live. Right?
Yeah, very easy.
All right, hang on.